Hey, welcome back to Spooky Bricks. So today we're looking at a smaller mock that I did called Welcome to Sleepy Hollow. It features Ichabod Crane walking in the Sleepy Hollow reading one of his favorite scary books. Now, in the story, Ichabod loved reading about all kinds of ghosts and ghouls and goblins, which is why he was so interested in the story of the Headless Horseman. So I built this mock about 2 years ago, and as you can see here, originally it was a more simple, smaller build with less details, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to make a video about it. But recently I made some updates, I made it a little bigger, I added some details, so I figured it was worth its own video. One of the biggest differences between the original and the updated versions is the tree. I kept the trunk of the tree mostly unchanged, but I thickened up the tree a bit with some more branches and I changed the leaves from dark red to shades of yellow and lime green. I felt that the leaves needed a bit more of a pop and that the dark red just wasn't quite cutting it. At the base of the tree we have an octopus piece to represent some curved, twisting tree roots, and this is a technique that I like so much that I went on to use it again on my A Christmas Carol build. The trunk of the tree is put at a little bit of an angle to give it a more interesting shape, and then I added some black hoses and black rope to add to that natural organic look. By its nature, Lego is obviously very blocky, so anything you can do to sort of change that up is good. It does seem that with every new tree I make, that becomes my new favorite tree, but I do think they get better and better, and I think I learn something different with every one I make. So the other major update to this build from the original was the addition of the little pumpkin patch and fence that runs parallel with the pathway. Where we have all shapes and sizes of pumpkins and gourds and squash. And then in the middle of the pumpkin patch we have a scarecrow keeping watch. Although they must not be doing a very good job, because over here we have some curious crows keeping an eye on Ichabod. The crows came from the Tonto minifigure from the Lone Ranger movie line. I wanted to give the fence a nice rough rustic look, so I added pieces like horn pieces, carrot top pieces, and hands to add to that effect. As if it's not made up of polished pieces of wood, but instead just random sticks and branches they found. On the other side of the fence we have a bunch of leaves on the ground, and I added some yellowish green hair pieces as piles of leaves just to add a different texture. Next to that we have a rustic cobblestone pathway that Ichabod is strolling down, which is made of various rounded and partially rounded tile pieces. The Spooky Tales book he is reading came from the Spooky Boy collectible minifigure, which is of course the perfect book for this channel. And finally we have the Sleepy Hollow sign with an owl perched atop it, welcoming Ichabod into town, which is also maybe a foreboding sign of things to come. The sticker on the sign was designed in Adobe Illustrator, then printed on some sticker paper. So that's about it for my Welcome to Sleepy Hollow mock. Just a short video for a smaller mock, so if you enjoyed what you see, make sure to subscribe and like and all that fun stuff. Also, I have an Instagram where I post a bunch of pictures of my various mocks I've made, both spooky and not spooky. That link will be down in the description, but yeah, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more spooky builds.
He was tall but exceedingly lank, with narrow shoulders, long arms and legs, hands that dangled a mile out of his sleeves, feet that might have served for shovels, and his whole frame most loosely hung together. His appetite for the marvelous and his powers of digesting it were extraordinary, and both had been increased by his residence in this spellbound region. No tale was too gross or monstrous for this capricious swallow. He had read Cotton Mather's History of New England Witchcraft. in which, by the way, he most firmly and potently believed. It was dearly purchased by the terrors of his subsequent walk homeward. Every sound of nature at that witching hour fluttered and excited imagination. The boding cry of the tree-toad, that harbinger of storm. The dreary hooting of the screech owl. Or the sudden rustling in the thicket of birds frightened from their roosts. And how often was he thrown into complete dismay by some rushing blast, howling among the trees, in the idea that it was the galloping Hessian of one of his nightly scourings. All these, however, were mere terrors of the night, phantoms of the mind that walk in darkness, and he would have passed a pleasant life of it if his path had not been crossed by a being that causes more perplexity to mortal man than ghosts, goblins, and the whole race of witches put together. A woman.